quote, perfection of food safety in a raw dairy product. Just as a pasteurized dairy product should not guarantee any food safety as well. Anything you put in your mouth, anytime you walk on the face of the earth, you should expect that there's a bad bacteria out there, and if you have a depressed immune system, you could become sick from it. So, it is possible that you could find a pathogen in raw milk. However, we have tested, like I said, about 6,000 times now in the last 8 years, have yet to find a pathogen in our raw milk. The state of California found a Campylobacter in some raw cream this last year. Nobody got sick. It took them 9 days to culture it out to get it to actually grow to a point they can detect it. Campylobacter is found routinely in your intestines. In fact, prior to 1972, Campylobacter was not considered a pathogen in the United States. It was considered traveler's diarrhea. So, it is true they found a pathogen in a raw dairy product with organic pasteurized dairy, but it took them 9 days to get it to a point where they could actually detect it. We tested all of our cows, could only find Campylobacter in 2 of the cows' fecal samples out there. So it's very rare, and of course, it's possible, but Campylobacter dies off very rapidly. In fact, in the presence of the good coliforms, it dies off in 24 hours. So, and I just wanted to let you know that we're not looking for perfection here. What we're looking for is extremely high level of confidence of food safety, and more importantly, this is a huge take-home, we want your immune system to be so strong that if a bad bacteria came from our milk or anybody's deli meat or anybody's whatever, it won't even affect you. That's the big take-home, is that if your immune system's working right, bad bacteria aren't bad anymore. Okay? And the longer the laundry list of this barometer of bad bacteria that grows in this country every year, because more and more susceptible we are to bacteria, which once were maybe not so bad, but now are really bad because of antibiotic abuse and depressed immune systems. You are no longer in that population that's susceptible anymore to bad bacteria. So it's just a word about that, and the fact that raw milk has never killed anybody in California, ever. You would have a very, very hard time finding deaths from raw milk. You could find plenty from raw milk cheeses, however. Listeriosis found in raw milk cheeses are plentiful. You can find them all over the place. But there's a reason why. The word raw is not defined. Nobody says that raw has to be less than 140 degrees or less than 100 degrees. You'll find extremely rare. I mean, we don't know of a case where raw milk cheese at 100 degrees or less ever had listeria ever found in it. That's because the lactobacillus bacteria is still alive, creating lactic acid, and those organic acids hate listeria. Listeria loves to grow in environments where things are sterilized. Pasteurization environments, like a surgery suite. Everything's sterilized with quaternary ammonias. And in those environments where you have sterilized conditions and you add in protein and sugars, Pseudomonas love it, and Listeria is their cousin, and they come in and occupy right behind them. That's why they've never found Listeria in any of our drains or any of our conditions in our creamery, but on regular pasteurized cream, they find it all the time. In fact, in Australia, when they did the test in Australia, Fazan's did it in New Zealand and Australia, 60% of the dairies had Listeria someplace in their creamery process. So it's very easy to see a cross-contamination between pasteurized milk, which no longer has the safety bacteria to control bacteria from growing, a Listeria getting there and just making a heyday because there's no organic acids to control it. So we control these kinds of bad bacteria by having just a propensity of all these good bacteria, which competitively exclude them through organic acid production. So don't ever believe somebody would say they found Listeria in raw milk. There's no history of it. CDFA doesn't have one accounting of that. Yes, in raw cheese, but not in raw milk. Listeria and raw milk hate each other. Listeria and cheese, they have a relationship. 49 people died in this area right here in California back in 1984 from the Jalisco cheese incident, where they had garbage milk came in, it was pasteurized, and then contaminated afterwards, and Listeria killed 49 people. So there's a pretty tough history with Listeria and raw cheeses. Now, as far as other things are concerned, there has been some people that have gotten sick from Campylobacter, which should not get people sick. But whenever there's an outbreak, it's like 10,000 people drank it, but only 120 got sick or 50 got sick. It's like, why didn't all of them get sick? And that's the manifestation of how physiology works. It only attacks those that are weakest immune systems. We test our milk for these pathogens every week, multiple times per week. The state requires a test once a month. We test multiple times per week. We have never found E. coli 15787 in our milk yet. And that's the big dangerous bacteria to watch out for kids. We test religiously. So we're very intensely involved with the food safety, and we have our own HACCP program there at the farm, and we're diligently looking after it. But again, there's no guarantee. 3 people died in Massachusetts last year from properly pasteurized milk with Listeria that got in after pasteurization. 3 people died. And there's been many other people who have died in the 94,000 people got sick in I think it was 1994 from salmonella found in pasteurized milk on the eastern seaboard. So pasteurization, it does control bacteria, but let me tell you something. Bacteria that get in after pasteurization is a disaster because it takes over like crazy and there's nothing to control it. No enzymes, no bacteria to competitively exclude them. That's why when you go to a pasteurization plant, it looks like a surgical suite. They're so worried about contamination. So, yes, ma'am?
Raw cheeses now they have to be aged 60 days, right?
They have for quite so many years, yes.
So those are safe from listeria?
Generally, yes, because listeria doesn't like to grow out that long, and the organic acids generally outcompete them. However, you have to be careful about raw cheeses. There are truly raw cheeses. We make a good one. Boersma Cheese Company makes one. The Fiscalini Cheese Company makes an award-winning cheese up in Modesto, California. There are other companies out here. Winchester Cheese Company makes a truly raw cheese. They have never been above 100 degrees in their life. But you look at the Altadenas, the Organic Valleys, the Landmark cheese, they've all been to 140 degrees. But because they aren't technically pasteurized, they're still dead, but they're not pasteurized, they can call them raw because the word raw is not defined. So be cautious. Those are the kind of cheeses that get you in trouble. They call them raw for marketing purposes when in fact they're not raw. So you have to ask the cheesemaker, have you taken this up to 140 degrees? And they'll say, I'm not going to tell you. And say, oh, you have. you call Organic Valley, they will refuse to tell you what the temperature is. And that's because it's not raw. It's actually been taken to a temperature which kills off bacteria. Here's the reason why you have to do that. If you have a milk that's been sitting around for a week and the bacteria counts are very low, and you put it in a cheese vat and you try to inoculate it with a new culture, that culture is going to be outcompeted. It won't grow. You have to kill off the bacteria to get the new culture to be able to grow in the environment where the lactose sugar is to feed it to get it to be cheese versus yogurt, whatever else what it wants to become. So that's why they pasteurize it or they heat, temperature, treat it, knock down the bacteria count to get their inoculum to work to make it cheddar or make it whatever, Gouda or whatever. When you do it like we do, it comes right out of the cow, right in the vat. It's low bacteria count, add your inoculum, it's truly raw. It's biodiverse, enzyme-rich, alive cheese. So there's a lot of stuff there. Yeah.
On that same line, my question is, okay, I saw the moving machine, you know,
Yes.
where you go to the cows and you hook them up. So your organization, you get the milk, it goes in. That's what I just wanted to do. Just
Okay.
run through the process.
Cows
and
come in.
yeah.
If the udder is really dirty, we take a water hose and wash them down really good. And we dry them off with a towel. Then we take a teat cup with some betadine, and actually with iodine, and dip the teat with about 0.5% iodine. And then we wipe it off with a cloth towel, individual cloth towel for each teat, so that the udder is clean. Then we put the machine on the udder. After we would strip first. We strip, make sure that there's no foremilk. In the teat canal itself, there's milk. And there's also bacteria in there that protects the mother from having bacteria invading into the udder. There's protective bacteria. So we strip the milk, and then we put the machines on. The cow's milked out. Milk goes down to a stainless steel line, goes in through a chiller. Goes through a pump first, and then a chiller. The chiller goes through a plate chiller. On the other side of the stainless steel plate, there's 25-degree glycol, and then stainless steel, and then the milk. So it comes in at 99 degrees and goes out at 35. So it's flash chilled. It just drops from 100 degrees down to 35. That stops bacterial growth. Keeps it suspended, puts everything to sleep. Goes into a transport tank outside, waits for the completion of the milking of all 350, 380 cows. Then the transport tank goes up to the creamery. It's an insulated thermos tank. Milk stays at 35, 36 degrees, so it can get up to a higher temperature. It goes to a creamery, gets put into another silo tank where it waits to be accumulated with other milk from the next milking, goes into our bottler, and that's it. It goes to one cotton sock filter to make sure we catch anything.
So how many milking in your ranch does it take to fill the big one? I'm just curious.
The big one what?
Like the big vat when you said the creamery, and then you.
The transport tanks we have are 1,200 gallons, and we have about 1,000 gallons in each of those that come up every day, or twice a day, because we milk twice a day. And we bottle twice a day.
Okay.
So we bottle right there. We test that milk for E. coli 15787, and we bottle right there. And sometimes we cream separate to make cream and butter. Sometimes we make cheese. We make all the products. We schedule out each of these tanks to decide what we're going to do to get product out to you and what the order is. And there's quite a technology. In fact, it's harder to do distribution than it is manufacturing. Because keeping all the milk cold and the Thermo King chillers and the drivers and everybody wants their milk now. And so, yeah. But that's the process, and the milk gets delivered to your store literally within 24 hours. So, and the biggest take home on being happy as a raw milk consumer is get it early and drink it early and buy it once a week. So if you get it like, you know, if it's delivered here, get it here that day or the next day. Take it home and drink it the next 4 or 5 days, and come back and get it the next week. And as long as you're in that tempo, you won't have sour milk. Keep milk cold, not for safety. The more fermented milk becomes, the safer it is. The pH drops, lactobacillus goes up. That's all good. That's yogurt. It doesn't taste real good. It kind of gets bitter. But it's very safe. The most unsafe moment in milk is the first second. After that, bacteria counts drop for pathogens and increase for good bacteria. It's exactly the opposite in pasteurization. When you pasteurize, it's worse. Safety goes worse over time because the more opportunity, the bad bacteria can grow without competition. So it's precisely the opposite. Yes?
Can I ask you how freezing would affect raw milk? Is that
It doesn't affect it much, but it has a little effect on the butterfat. The enzymes are still active, the bacteria are still active. But the butterfat thinks it's trying to become ice cream, and they congeal together. So when you thaw it, it's all clumpy. So what we suggest, if you freeze it and it works, because we got a lot of customers in Canada that freeze, is you put it in warm water at 140